Hi, welcome. My name is Pascal Tremblay. I'm the co-founder of Nectara. Today I'm joined by Marc Aixalà. Hi, Marc. Welcome.
Hello, Pascal. Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks for being here. And today we're talking about integration and facilitation of integration. And Marc has a huge amount of experience at ICEERS facilitating integration for over 1,000 different people. And today we're going to be talking, to start with, a little bit about the space itself. And Marc, you've been around the block for some time now. What have you seen in the psychedelic space as it's been emerging from, I would say, the post-boom era of maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and where do you see the biggest opportunities?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting evolution of the psychedelic field. I'm thinking about how it was 25 years ago when I started being interested in these things. Everything was very much either totally underground or very specific research projects in some university in the US or whatever. Yeah. But now things are completely different. We have seen this renaissance, as they call it. We have seen people getting interested in psychedelics and traveling to exotic countries to try exotic medicines and bring them back to their places. And so now it's a reality that it's present everywhere that you go. I mean, newspapers, in social media, it's, Facebook, everywhere you see about psychedelics and plant medicines. And so there's been an ongoing growth of the offer on psychedelic retreats or psychedelic experiences, shamanic journeys to the Amazon. And we have also seen, interestingly, an increase of an offer of integration practices. So in the last years, maybe because becoming a psychedelic therapist is not something yet that is regulated and we don't know who's going to be able to be a psychedelic therapist and administer the substances, but we can work in integration. So we've seen a lot of people becoming integration practitioners or integration therapists or coaches. So there's been a huge increase in the offer of integration services, yeah? Which on the one hand, I think it's a very good thing because it's important to have support for people that undergo these experiences. On the other hand, I think it has also created some misunderstandings of what to expect from these practices, from the integration practices. And also sometimes we can fall into the trap of creating a new need that was not there, almost like sending the message that if you're not doing your integration with a specialist or whatever, you're not doing things right, you know? So I think we need to be careful with not creating needs to people that they don't have, and at the same time develop integration practices that are useful, that are effective, and that are supportive to the community, you know? So I think that nowadays we have a combination of very good people working in the field, people with experience, people with training, people that work from a good place, and also we have the presence of people that they have seen the opportunity and they just have good marketing skills and good capacity to build a nice website and a nice product, but that they don't really offer a product that is mature or that is responsible. Yeah, so it's a little bit confusing to discern what's out there and what's good and what's not. So yeah, I think that it's become a more complex landscape than we had 25 years ago, definitely.
Yeah, things have been changing quite a lot. Like Nectara is turning 5 years old this week. Yay, us.
Yeah,
And things
happy
have changed
birthday.
thank you. And things have changed a lot in that time, actually. You're right. Like things have definitely been exploding and definitely seen a lot of integration practitioners that are coming in with different levels of experience, I would say. And yet I haven't seen deeply robust integration training that is specifically made for integration. And there's some programs out there that are doing a pretty good job of that, but there's just, I think, over 80 different training programs now for facilitators and of varying degrees or varying quality. And so it's very difficult, I think, for people to actually find the ones that are actually doing the good work. And I think that's part of the problem, is that it's not just the providers, but also the training programs have been exploding as well. And I'd be curious to hear what you're seeing on that side of things.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think that it has become a landscape in itself, the training, psychedelic training landscape. And as you said, there's plenty of psychedelic programs. The problem for me is that it's difficult to understand two things. One, what are you going to be learning in those programs? Some of them are very broad. You have, I don't know, 20, 30 different teachers talking about different stuff. So I can understand that this can be a good introduction to see like a wide perspective of what's the psychedelic feel about. But I don't think that these programs can teach you in depth how to do things, so you can get a nice overview, but you maybe don't learn anything very specifically. And also the other challenge with these programs is that sometimes it's difficult to understand what they are certifying you to do. Some people take on these programs thinking that they're going to become certified by some institution, and then when psychedelics become legal, they are going to be able to provide psychedelics to people, which that's something that nobody can guarantee. So I think there's been a little bit of confusion of what these trainings are for, and what kind of skills are we training people in. So again, it has become a business on its own, and I understand that a lot of people are interested in becoming psychedelic practitioners or integration practitioners or whatever, but we don't know if these trainings can actually give what people want, like a certain diploma or certain accreditation that will allow you to work or to be recognized by a regulatory body. So yeah, it's also a confusing field, and with sometimes half truths in what they are offering. But mostly I think that it's difficult for a lot of people to really understand what to expect from these programs. What will I learn if I go into this program? I think that sometimes a little bit confusing.
What would you look for in a, you're looking for a program to upskill your level of facilitation, maybe specifically to integration. What would you be looking for to give yourself a good signal that this could be a good fit?
One should be honest with oneself of where do I see myself more? How do I want to navigate this gap? So I think that that's what's important before deciding what training program one wants to do. The way that I've thought and the way that I teach integration is from a very practical approach. I think that what's missing many times in the integration field is not so much psychedelic experience. A lot of psychedelic integration coaches or therapists, they have gone through their own personal journey through plant medicine or psychedelics, so they know how it is in their skin. Many times what they are missing or what they are lacking are some tools and some skills in how to plan, how to think about an integration process. So this is not so much psychedelic learning, it's more about practice around integration, which can be more similar to learning some psychotherapy techniques or tools than going through your own personal process. So that's also something that you find in some psychedelic programs that are very much based on your own personal experience. It's travels to the Amazon, psychedelic experience on the underground, but they don't teach you so much practical skills on how to work with other people. So the program that I have created is mostly aimed for people that they do have already some psychotherapeutic skills and some psychedelic experience, but they want to deepen their knowledge on how to structure, how to think about integration, how to become more flexible, more creative, on how to create integration protocols or integration processes that are going to be specifically tailored for the people that they're working with. So this is not one shoe fits all. It's how to learn to adapt my practice to the specific needs of the person that I'm working with. So and again, we developed this program through ICEERS, so it's not an official thing. It's not something that's going to be recognized by the university of whatever, but that it's very much focused on providing practical skills. So once people finish this program, they feel that they have new tools and they can approach their work in a better way. That they can think and plan better and have tools and know how to use them to support people in a more meaningful way.
Mm-hmm. In your experience, what's been and obviously this is a pretty broad question, but in your experience, what's been the most important quality or skill that someone may have to support another person's integration?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that has been crucial for me is to learn what is called the psychological constructivism. This is a philosophical positioning that has practical implications. And the bottom line is that there is not such thing as one reality, that there are multiple realities and each of us creates our own reality. So reality is not something that is out there to be known or to be discovered. Reality is something that we co-create. There are things out there and there's me, And in the interaction, that's what a reality is created. So, because psychedelic experiences are so diverse and everybody will have their own different psychedelic experience, it's extremely important, at least in my opinion, for psychedelic integration practitioners to be able to be flexible with their worldview, with this reality, and understand that things can be different than what they believe, that there are different realities that we are operating in, and that what actually directs the integration process is not my reality, the reality of the therapist, but the reality of the client. So the first job of the integration practitioner is to learn the reality of this person. What sort of beliefs, what sort of world does this person live in? How are they interpreting the process? How are they interpreting their challenges? And I join this person in that understanding, and we operate in that reality. Yeah. So I think that that's maybe the main learning, and we talk a lot about that, no, different conceptions of realities and how to use them in a therapeutic or integration process. That's one thing, and the other thing would be to have some capacity to plan and to design an integration process. Many times therapists operate on the go, like session by session. Sometimes this can be helpful, but I think it's more helpful to be able to plan ahead and to see where are we going, and decide with the collaboration of the client where we're going. Like we're setting the direction of what's the aim, what's the objective of our encounters, of what we're doing here, and then we align with the client, and then we're moving in that direction, and how to design an integration plan that actually is going into a certain direction. This usually prevents the frustration for the client and for the therapist, because sometimes therapy or integration can be frustrating because we don't know where we're going, we don't know what we're doing, if it's working or if it's not working, if this is meaningful or not. So I think that integration should be an honest intervention, limited in time, and that both the client and the therapist can agree that it's being helpful. So yeah, those would be the main ingredients that I think that integration therapists should learn.
I love that philosophy. That's really interesting and beautiful, and really keeps things open and flexible and organic, and things can unfold naturally that way, but with a specific map of where you're going, which is really useful. And what are the main mistakes that people are making when they're trying to help people integrate?
Yeah, in a way, it's related to what we were saying. One would be to assume that my interpretation is more valid than the interpretation of the client, for example, or trying to impose cosmovisions or worldviews on the client. That is one of the main mistakes. The other mistake that would be worse, I would say, would be that we create needs or problems where the client doesn't perceive them. So sometimes somebody comes with some request, and then through our interpretations, our way of seeing that, it's like, well, you should work on that as well. You have this trauma that you have not processed, or this, and then the person feels like burdened with something else that they were not thinking. So that can extend the therapy process, make the objectives not so clear, and create more problems than the person had. So I think that that's an ethical aspect of any therapeutic practice, not to create more problems than the person is already perceiving. And then the other one has to do with the frustration of not knowing if what we're doing is meaningful or not, or feeling that we're going session by session and not having a clear sense of the usefulness of what we're doing. I think that that's something that it's not good for anybody, for the therapist or for the client, and that's something that should be avoided. The maybe bottom line of all this is, I believe that any integration practice should honor the psychedelic principles of empowering the person. When we take psychedelics or plant medicine, we discover that we are agents of our own healing, and any integration or therapy practice should be aligned with that. So if our practice is somehow making the person more dependent on us or on the therapy, that is not aligned with the psychedelic principles. So any intervention should be aligned to empower the person, to help them find the healing or the answers inside, so they can continue the journey on their own. That's at least how I feel about that.
Yeah, so keep your ego in check, and you're not healing anyone. They're healing themselves, and you don't have to be so directive with your process, essentially. And I think getting proper training is such a big part of the ethics of integration. But are there any ethical principles that you hold dear around doing this work that you'd like to share?
Hmm. Again, they are related with this, like knowing your place as a practitioner, as a therapist, as an integrator. And many times the place that you have or the role that you have is given by the client. What do you want me to help you with? How come that are we talking here? What needs to happen so you don't need me anymore? I think that is very important. And then to stick to the role that the person wants us to have. Sometimes people could come with requests and wanting us to be gurus or teachers or mentors. I don't know. I would not take those roles. I'm just a therapist. I'm just somebody that supports people in integration. So it is not my role to direct them into spiritual practices or tell them what to do with their lives. So I would keep my practice honest and specific to what the person is asking me to help them with. So I think that for me that's an ethical aspect. Like to stay within my role and within the boundaries of our relationship.
That's well said. I think for like retreats as well, the goal of a retreat should be that they never have return clients ever. That should be the main goal of a retreat business, in my opinion. So I'd like that you share that. I think that's very important. We've covered some of the basics, but I'd love to dive into the program that you're launching because I'm really excited to hear more about it. Can you share more about when it's happening? What is the sort of process with it? Who's a part of it? What are people going to get out of joining? And anything else you'd like to share about it?
Yeah. So this is going to be the third edition of the program. We've done 2 in English. This is going to be the third one. And we're going to do the second in Spanish. And it's a 3-month program in which people will have access to about 30 hours of recorded videos. And these videos are mostly led by myself and then David Londoño, who is a colleague at ICEERS. And the combination of my style and David's style is really cool because he's a trained in different traditions. So he comes from a more indigenous perspective, but he's also a therapist and he knows how the West works, So he brings more the indigenous and the shamanic perspective, and I bring more maybe the Western psychological perspective. But what people will find is a progression in the content. So we start from more general aspects of what integration is and how to conceptualize and how to understand integration. Then we go more into these philosophical underpinnings of psychological constructivism and how to position ourselves, what should be our standard attitude as therapists in the face of an integration process. Then we talk about tools that can help maximize the benefit after positive experiences, so people can build more meaningful integration practices in their retreat or in their ceremonies, like immediate integration practices, how to run sharing circles, how to provide meaningful integration tools when things have gone well. So this would be more like the general knowledge. Then we go more into the specifics of challenging experiences. We describe in depth challenging experiences, and we talk about very specific techniques that can be supportive in different situations that are challenging. So people at the end, they learn how to structure a process, how to use different techniques in different phases of the process. I also provide a lot of like real examples of how do things sound in the moment that they are happening. So many times what happens in therapy trainings or psychology trainings is that you get the theory, but you don't get to imagine how things look like when they are happening. So I do provide a lot of real examples of how would it look if you would see me doing an integration session. What things would I be saying? So I somehow role play. I say things that I say in real sessions, and I provide real examples so people can imagine how to use these techniques that we talk about, how to use them with different people, what sort of language, what sort of tone. We talk about the importance of language, when it's a good moment to propose a technique that might be slightly challenging or not. So we talk about the nuances of how to operate inside the terrain of an integration process. So I think that at least in the last editions, has been quite valuable for people. They gave us feedback that they appreciated to really understand how things look like and how to practice how to do that. And then David has different seminars, and he talks about different aspects, mostly related with the plant medicine world. So, for example, when ayahuasca tells you to do something or not do something, or shows you something, or the common pitfalls of integrators. So it's an interesting program. And then we have weekly meetings, an hour and a half meeting every week, to ask questions, to discuss, to debate. So it's a combination of asynchronous learning that you can do at your own rhythm through these online videos, and then live meetings in which we can interact with each other. Yeah, that's mostly the structure.
Sounds great. And I really appreciate that you and David and the ICEERS team are putting some groundedness and some fundamental pillars into the field, because there's so many people that are wanting to do integration, and so many people who can need the support, or at the very least, not even just direct support always, but having a resourcing community that's building this space with a set of grounded principles and tools that are actually seeping through the culture of psychedelics. I think it's very important to have programs like this. And I'd like to ask you as well, who is this for and who is this not for?
Yeah, so we try to be inclusive in that sense. So truth is that it could be for everybody. Yeah, so you're interested in the psychedelic field, you can read and you can understand English or Spanish, you will get out of something out of this. Of course, that as we progress in the program, the last chapters, so to speak, they are more focused for people that are actually doing intervention with other people. Yeah, so psychologists or facilitators or people that work with people. If you have experience in that field, that you've done therapy sessions and you've been in the role of a therapist, there are certain things that are going to make more sense, and some capacities that we understand that you will have acquired already. For somebody that doesn't have any psychotherapeutic experience or training, you might understand the tools, you might understand the techniques and how to do that, but you might be lacking some interpersonal knowledge on how to open sessions, how to create rapport with participants or with clients. Yeah, depending on how much psychology or therapy training you have, it is going to be easier to apply than or not, but I would say that especially the first half of the training is very much general, that anybody can benefit from it, even people that are not planning to use it with anybody else, but they can also apply it with themselves as integration tools and integration practices that can be helpful for their path. But it is mostly focused for people with some psychotherapeutic or psychology training, because I use that kind of language, and sometimes I assume that people know certain things. But yeah, it's not complex in the sense that I've looked for something that's really difficult to understand for people that, I try to use very normal language and not be that specific, but still it's a training that comes from a therapist and is designed to therapists.
Cool. And can experienced people with 5, 7 years, 8 years of experience benefit from this as well?
I think so, because even if you are a seasoned therapist, I think that what I share in this training is not that common. So the tools and techniques, it's not that I invented them. I gathered them from different schools, but the approach that I use is not so mainstream, I would say. So it can be surprising for therapists with lots of years of experience. And I have to say, and I warned people about this in the first videos, it can be slightly challenging or threatening or or triggering for people, because I sometimes challenge some of the main ideas of what a psychotherapeutic intervention should look like. So just to give a teaser, the model of integration that we share in this program is a brief intervention process, so with a maximum of 10 sessions. Yeah, so within the framework of 10 sessions, things should open, should happen, and should conclude. And that's something that can be very challenging or triggering for some therapists. So there is some unlearning in that sense, or some challenging some common ideas. But that's also part of the fun of the process, to challenge ourselves and to see what can we apply from this model, then into the model that you've learned before. So it's not that I'm pretending that people will change their way of working, rather than they will enrich their way of working. And we had some psychoanalysts come into the program, and of course their approach is radically different from the approach that I share. But they can also apply certain things, like, all right, I can take this and use it in my psychoanalytical processes. So although I might intellectually challenge some of your beliefs, anybody is welcome to come and join and use what we learn in this training and apply it in their own schools or in their own lineages. So
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to, as multidimensional people working in a multidimensional field, to have a multidimensional degree of different inputs and perspectives so that we can keep growing. That's part of integration, of course, but
yeah.
I really appreciate that you're pushing the envelope and maybe triggering people a little bit, because that's what leads to growth, right? Is there anything else you'd like to share about the program before we close?
Yeah, just to share that the last editions have been beautiful and enjoyable, and we've received good feedback. And the live meetings that we had weekly, these are 12 live meetings. At the end, it felt almost like a family that we were meeting every week for 3 months. So it creates some sort of container in which we are exploring and growing, and people can ask questions and interact and get to meet other people. And I'm aware of groups that have been created after this, people that continued being in touch, and they created their own integration circles in Barcelona, for example. So that can be also a good meeting place for people that want to connect with other members of the community.
I'm genuinely interested in joining. So when does it start, and what's the timing of it?
So it starts in January. Registrations are, I believe, until late December. And we start second week of January. The English group is going to be meeting every Monday at 6:30 CEST. So that's Madrid time or Europe time. And the Spanish group is meeting on Tuesdays. Yeah. And that's going to go weekly until March, mid-March roughly. So
Okay, beautiful. Well, I hope it goes really well, and I know it will. And I fully support ICEERS' programs. And if anyone is curious about learning more, how can they find out more about this? And
they
sign up.
can find information on social media through my social media at Marc Aixalà or the ICEERS Academy, and my personal website. There's also some links to that, marcaixalà.com. And of course, the ICEERS website, iceers.org. There's links to our educational programs. So feel free to contact, and ask questions if you have.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time and for putting this together and for your service in the world. It's really appreciated and having large impact. So thank you.
Thank you, Pascal. A pleasure.